Thanks, comrades. Before I start, I just want to test the patience of the chair at the beginning, and I will do so at the end. We had an international message of support from some rail workers from Belgium at the start of the march. We've also had a message of support from a trade union and popular federation from Brazil called Conlutas that represents about 300 unions and social movements and youth in Brazil. And they send a message of solidarity to our lobby of the TUC, to the National Shop Stewards Network. And they say, we must unite our forces in the world because we are fighting against the same attacks that we are all suffering. And they also say that we stand with the South African miners as well. Comrades, the NSSN is proud of organising this lobby, proud of continuing the tradition. I'm just going to say, by the way, Dave Smith has just turned up. So if he can get to the stage, perhaps he can be the last speaker and say a few words, if you want to come to the stage. But we're proud of continuing a tradition that has been throughout the history of the trade union movement. 28 years ago, the Broad Left Organising Committee, Bloc, organised a lobby of the TUC to try and get a one-day general strike in support of the miners. In 1931, miners from South Wales marched to the TUC Congress in Bristol. I must say, when they got there, the police attacked them. That didn't quite happen today, although they were harassing some youngsters. And the TUC leaders didn't even meet them when the police released them. So I'm not sure that's going to happen to us today. But we are proud, and we are proud of the debate that this lobby has ignited as well. And we want to make this clear. While we welcome the demonstration that the TUC has called on the 20th of October in London and Glasgow and Belfast, we will do whatever we can to build that demonstration, to get 1 million people on the streets. We are right to ask the question, what comes after that demonstration? What is necessary? What is necessary to confront the 85% of the condemned cuts that are still to come? And we should remind people, it might be perhaps the best lobby we've had at the TUC, that's debatable. It's not the first one we've had. We called a lobby last year in London on the mini-conference for a 24-hour public sector general strike, and we were proud of the fact that that week the TUC unions laid the basis for November the 30th. The year before, the first TUC under the Condemned Coalition, we organised a lobby in Manchester to call for a national demonstration, and it finally did happen in March of 26th, and as people have said, hundreds of thousands, perhaps as much as 750,000 came on that demonstration. Well, on that demonstration, you might remember we issued this card, 40,000 of them, and the first sentence on the card says, "This is the fight of our lives." Well, who can doubt that now? This April, that radical militant left-wing paper, the Daily Mail, revealed that one food bank is opening every week in the UK. Who can doubt that those food banks are nothing more than modern-day soup kitchens? We could mention tuition fees, we could mention EMA, disability living allowance, the Remploy factories closed by this government, housing benefit, council tax benefit. We could go on and on and on. But by the way, we should make the point to this Congress that after the disaster that these fat cats have taken in this society, no one should get up at this TUC and be embarrassed to say that they believe that socialism is the alternative to this system. Never be embarrassed to stand for that alternative. And also, we fight those who say that the demand of a 24-hour general strike is unrealistic because it's abstract. But we say we call for a 24-hour general strike against the effects of austerity, against the 400,000 public sector job workers sacked, against the 4-year pay freeze, against the attacks on public sector pensions, against the wholesale privatisation all of the public sector. Any one of these issues could be the trigger for strike ballots in the public sector. So if you're looking for a reason, trade union leaders this week, let's have one on pay, or let's have one on pensions, or let's have one on privatisation, or let's have one on redundancy, but let's coordinate those pensions. Don't forget, the reason why the TUC chose pensions last year wasn't for any reason. It was because it was the one issue last year that could coordinate the maximum action. And as Shona has said in this meeting, as Martin said at the start, then we already have strike action in the diary planned for this autumn. So I'll ask you this question: how abstract and unrealistic and how pie in the sky this is. So if Unison could be taking action, if the NUT and NES UWT could be taking action, if UCU could be taking action, and PCS could be taking action, and we call for a ballot of all those in the middle of a 4-year pay freeze in the public sector to take action this autumn. And then we put a call out to all workers in the private sector to coordinate the planned action they may have with that. So therefore, if this autumn there are any more rent-buy plants that close, or if the construction companies seek again to cut wages of the electricians or any workers, or Unilever decides to go on strike, or London buses, or the rail workers, is it beyond the realms of possibility that they could go out to strike on the same day against this government? You see, some of you who read our e-bulletin every week will know it's getting longer and longer and longer and longer. It's not our fault. It's because more workers are taking action. We've got to report those strikes that are taking place. You see, something has changed. Something has changed, and we've got to fight for that idea at this TUC. The demonstration on March the 26th last year, the strike on June the 30th, the strike on November the 30th, the incredible day of May the 10th when prison officers walked out unofficially and illegally, the victory of the electricians, the victory of the London buses in their Olympic bonus, the defensive battles that may not have won total victory, but have won some concessions like MMP this year. Something has changed. The idea of workers struggling again, that workers can fight and workers can win, is now again a legitimate idea in the trade union movement. We shouldn't have to fight that over again, but we will fight that this week and in the arguments that we use. Comrades, I'll just come to a last couple of points. If people think the mood is not there, I celebrate, I salute the 80,000 that booed George Osborne, that booed Theresa May, that booed Jeremy Hunt, because those 80,000 speak for the majority in this country who have had a gutsful of this government and want someone to fight back. They will come behind the trade union movement at this time. The pressure is on. I don't know if you know, by the way, and you've been a bit too loud, the Unison delegation meeting is in this at all. Somebody might hear you cheering and clapping. Well, the pressure's on at this conference. The vote at the General Council tells you the pressure is on. And if that vote can be won this week, that is the door open for us to push after this conference. But even if it isn't passed, this lobby has lit the touch paper that we can fight for these demands going forward. Comrades, this is the 40th anniversary of two important dates. It's 40 years since the Pentonville Five. 40 years since probably the closest point we've come to a one-day general strike since 1926. It's also 40 years of the picket in Shrewsbury that led to the jailing of the Shrewsbury pickets, people like Des Warren, Ricky Tomlinson and others. Isn't it apt that we had a successful strike in the construction industry 40 years after? What a way to mark the 40th anniversary of that particular battle. Comrades, we don't look back at history because it's an abstract history lesson. We look at history to learn from it. We look at it to change history. Just like the civil servants did. Just like the public sector workers and the councils, the teachers, the prison officers who took the walkout in May this year. We are the history makers. We are changing history over the last 18 months to 2 years. Cameron wants to change history. He wants to roll back history. He wants us to take us back to the Victorian times, before the NHS, of private education and the soup kitchens. Are we going to stand back and let that happen? Are we just going to accept that? Is our class going to accept that happening? So I'll make this plea. If you're a delegate to this TUC this week, you vote for the composite that was inspired by the PCS and Unite. But you vote for the general strike motion that has been put forward by the POA. You are not on your own. You are not on your own. There are millions of workers around this country that are on your side and want you to vote for that motion. But whatever happens, take the model motion from the leaflet that we've produced. Take it back to your trade union branch and your shop stewards committee. Continue the debate that this lobby has started. There's an old saying, you've got to say what needs to be said and do what needs to be done. That's why we've called this lobby. We want to build the biggest demonstration on October the 20th that this country has ever seen. And then we want to get this trade union movement of 6 million plus, stand it up to its full height, strike together to smash the austerity offensive and throw this fat cat government out of office. On October 20th, we'll march together. Then we fight to strike together and win a famous victory for our class. Thank you.
Of information. A member of the Unison National Executive has just tweeted. Their delegation has voted to back Resolution 5!